same socioeconomic status as I. I'm going to love my neighbor as long as my neighbor agrees with me, as long as my neighbor is in my circle or has my same educational level. I want to do it. I just want to make sure that the lines are clearly drawn to where my love begins and where my love ends. Is it possible that this lawyer, is it possible that this religious scholar had no problem with loving his neighbor? He just wanted to make sure that some people were not his neighbors.
All right.
I think I just said so. I need to say it again. He didn't have a problem loving his neighbors. Just as long as you are not my neighbors. I love my neighbors just as long as you are my neighbors. I'll extend to you my love and my care and my warm embrace, but I want to make sure that it starts at a point and it ends at a point. So in the text, Jesus begins to answer this man's question by telling a parable. He tells a story about a man traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho. And as he was traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho, he was attacked and left for dead by a band of robbers. The Bible says that they took him. Jesus continues his story by telling his readers that a priest came down the road. And the NIV, I look at it, in the New International Version Bible says a priest happened to be going down the same road, but the priest does not stop. Rather, he crosses to the other side and keeps going. Listen to my words. Another potential source of aid arrives on the scene and does exactly what the priest does. He crosses to the other side and he keeps it moving. It is safe to say that these two likely sources failed to be enabled.
All right.
Notice I said these two likely sources. Why were they likely sources? I want to suggest that perhaps the priest and the Levite who could have given support represent the church. They gave no help. Listen to me. Yet they were in a position to do so. Can I say that this describes so many of us in the church of the 21st century? We're more concerned about our personal well-being, and we miss out on the well-being of others. Although the scriptures do not give us reasons as to why these two did not stop, it is speculated perhaps they feared that they were going to be jumped on. Perhaps they feared that they were going to be rendered unclean themselves. Sometimes getting involved is too costly. Sometimes getting involved makes the investment high. Hear me now. But to refuse to help is moral failure. Church of the 21st century must ask some very important questions of herself. What will happen if I keep on passing up the hurt? What will happen if I keep on passing up the helpless, the discouraged, and the disenfranchised? What will happen if I keep on passing over those who have been beaten and left dead, yes, even by an unjust system? What will happen to our community if we put more money in fixing up our building rather than fixing up the communities that we have been called to minister? What will happen to our children if we stop working with them because we no longer have children in the system or even go to church? The church cannot continue to see the need and continue to walk to the other side of the street and act like the need does not exist. We're not being the church if our comfortability is not challenged every now and then. Can I tell you this and you don't get mad at me? Shame on the churches of Paducah for not speaking up about the growing homelessness in our city. And all we have is a 3-month solution and no long-term solution. Shame on the churches of Paducah who won't speak up about high power bills. And it gets no attention until certain people who own certain businesses begin to holler shame.
That's right. Yes.
On the churches of Paducah, because we keep coming and lifting up our hands and sing in the sanctuary and never addressing the needs of our community, never speaking up for the say anything when a young boy goes and drops a baby in a dumpster. I'm not saying that it was right, but they kept him in jail until he turned 18 so they could try him as an adult. And the church didn't say a word. We talked about it. We said how bad it is. But the church never spoke up. The church looked the other way. The church didn't see a reason to stand up. Shame on the church. But we've had disciples of our own church who were taken by flipping spiritual. Anything until they owed the city of Paducah $32,000 in back taxes.
Oh, yes.
That's right.
Well, that's
right.
I feel your spirit.
Yes.
Somewhere, somehow,
Yep.
the church has to stop with just the praise and the worship and taking care of our own needs and start taking care of the brother and the sister who was left on the Jericho road of life to die by the road. Maybe what others would say. Or maybe they didn't want to lose their 501c3 status. I don't know.
All right.
Are you with me? Jesus says a Levite came. A priest came. People who can make a difference. To make a difference. But it's in the text. But Jesus tells us that an unlikely person went down the same street. It's in the text. A half-breed. Oh, somebody who didn't have anything. Somebody that wasn't looking at to make a difference, but yet this same unlikely candidate, a Samaritan, went down the same street. But notice in the text, the Samaritan did something. He's right here in the text. It says that the Samaritan comes to the man. You can't help anybody if you ain't willing to get where they are. It's one thing to look on Chris. It's another thing to get down there with Chris and to walk with him. But the text says that he comes to the man.
All right.
But when he gets there, he does something. He binds up his wounds. He does something when he gets there. He says, I see you hurt. And perhaps he took some of his own clothes and began to bind the wounds. And sometimes we have to take a little bit of us. And then he anoints him with oil and he comforts him. Check this. And then he picks him up, loads him on this mule, takes him to the residence inn. And he says, he can stay here. I'm going to pay for it. And if it costs a little extra when I come back, I'll take care of the bill. Y'all, am I in the Bible? And when I began to read and began to research, it suggests that what was that they would have paid for this particular bill was enough for almost 3 weeks of staying at the residence inn. Jesus says in the text to love your neighbor as you love yourself. Can I stop right there? Love is self-instinctive. Love is involuntary. In other words, if you're in trouble, if you were help, if you're in trouble, you don't stop and say, I wonder if I deserve to be helped. If you're in trouble, if you've got some stuff going on in your life, you don't stop and say, I wonder if I deserve to get delivered. Jesus says this is how we should love our neighbor. You have to feel, I have to feel that they are worthy and that they deserve preferential treatment. There is no legalism. There are no rules. There are no limits. In our text, this religious scholar is trying to find a new rule or new law. But this Samaritan comes and he puts an end to the legalism. He puts an end to the new rules. He puts an end to the new laws. He did what he, catch me now, was supposed to do.
That's right.
He didn't ignore the need.
That's right.
He didn't call the church together and say, there's a brother down on the road. I'm wondering how many folk want to help him. All in favor of singing by saying aye. Are y'all feeling it? He didn't call the board and he said, we got a brother down on the road that's beaten up by thieves, and I'm taking him to I want to take him to the residence, and I wonder if I can get my money back. Are y'all feeling it today?
Right.
He looked at the need, and he did what he was supposed to do. Can I remind us that there's some things that we are supposed to do simply because we're Christian? There's some things that we're supposed to do simply because we say that we love God. There's some things that we're supposed to do that does not require a whole lot of deliberation, a whole lot of thought, a whole lot of prayer. Yeah, I said prayer. There's some things that are there that we are supposed to do. And this Samaritan saw his brother who had been beaten and left for dead. He was half naked. And he said, here is a need.
That's right.
What can I do to help?
Yes, sir.
Put him on his mule.
Yes, sir.
Took him to the hotel
Yes, sir.
and said, take care of him, and I will take care of you.
All right.
Are you with me today? He didn't ignore the need. And can I say it's time for the church to refocus and be good neighbors? Who is my neighbor, you ask? I'm glad you asked. Our neighbor is not about... Our neighbor is everybody and anybody who finds themselves in need, hear me, and we have the resources to help. I tell our Sunday school class all the time, if somebody needs a bill paid, you may not have the whole whatever they need, but you give what you have, and you find 5 or 6 more folks who can give $5 or $10, and we meet the need. It's a sin, hear me today. It is moral failure to have what a person needs, and we're constantly trying to find somebody else who can meet the need. God has sent them to you. God has put them in your place so that you can be a good neighbor. So as I close, your neighbor might be across the street. Your neighbor might be down the street. Your neighbor just might be over 300 miles away in a place called Flint, Michigan.
All right.
To which you all, this church, has responded so well to make sure that we're good neighbors to people in Flint. Because we understand that it's them today.
Say that, Pastor.
It can be Paducah tomorrow.
Right.
And what we make happen for other people, God will make happen for us.
Right.
We open for us. God will open those same doors for us. It's a sin and a moral failure to have what a person needs, and yet we take them to the 3rd degree before we decide that we're going to meet the need. Everybody ain't spending their money crazy. Everybody's not mismanaging their money.
All right.
Can I tell you, for those who ain't never been in a position and never had, and you've always had money? I know there are a few of us who always had. And you know amen? Oh, okay, so that means I'm talking to a I'm talking to people who had to borrow from Peter to pay Paul every now and then. I'm talking to having a real folk in the house. I'm talking to some people who love God with their whole heart, their mind, their soul, and their neighbor and themselves. But in the midst of all that, you have to decide, can I eat today? sin to know that Chris is hungry. And I don't do what I can to make sure he eats. Yeah, he's looking at his belly. He don't need to eat no more. He got some other needs going on. We'll help you some other way. We don't have to eat. But you understand what I'm trying to say. We know the need. If you know that somebody has not worked for 6 months, you don't need to wonder if they got money to pay their bills. You already know that they need somebody to step up to the plate and help pay their bills. But yet we, like the scholar and the lawyer, we're looking for loopholes. How can I do this without really doing this? How can I do this to make sure that I'm responsible? Can I tell somebody something? If you have and won't share what you have, God will put you in a position where you'll have to depend on somebody else. God has a sense of humor. I'm almost right myself. No more loopholes. Can I tell somebody, just love you want to be loved? Just embrace someone the way you want to be embraced. Just walk with someone the same way you want to be walked with. You don't need a rule. You don't need a law. You don't need approval to love me where I am. I don't need a rule. I don't need a law to know that you're in need to love you. Can I tell you something? I think that it's even a sin and a moral failure to know that I'm getting ready to walk in a hole and you won't come and rescue me. But here's the loophole I told them last time. They don't ever listen to nothing you tell them. Loophole, 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 interpreted lie. Because if you love somebody, I don't care how many times you have to tell them. You keep on telling them till they get what you're trying to get. And even if they go down after you told them, their blood is not on your hands. Oh, y'all walk with me. He was looking for a loophole. Jesus said, ain't no loopholes. You just got to give of you. I hear the songwriter saying, if I can help somebody along the way, then my living shall not be in vain. If I can save somebody, then my living won't be in vain. If I can encourage somebody, then my living won't be in vain. Because the reality is, if we're part of the family, if we're part of the community, when I have, you have.
All right.
Y'all miss that.
That's right.
Y'all didn't catch that. The community says, as long as I have food on my table, you got food on your table.
All right.
As long as I can pay my car note, we're going to do what we can to help you pay your car note. Y'all not feeling me. And because we're part of community. But can I tell you something? If there is a need, you got to let folks know you got a need. You can't keep walking around here with pride and got your head stuck up in the air and your mouth closed. Ain't nobody, what's wrong, Doug? How can I pray? I'm fine. What can I do, Lord? He gonna make a way. You know the stuff we do. If there is a need, you got to say, I got a need. If there's a need, you got to be able to and not be so prideful to say, I'm hungry. All right. I've been eating beans and rice and beans for the last week. I want a pig foot. And we'll sing in the baby's house. We'll sing in the family's house. They'll get you some pig foots. You get the point of what I'm trying to say. We can't any longer look for loopholes. We can't any longer, as a church look for a reason not to do what we're supposed to do.
All right.
That's my message for today. It's just 12 o'clock. Let me take this other text.